How's it going, guys? It's Noah. I just want to say thank you for all the love and support that you've given us. Caleb, Camden, and I really appreciate it. If you haven't yet, go ahead and go on YouTube, like and subscribe. It should be right here. And then if you also haven't gone, if you listen to the podcast through Apple Podcasts or Spotify, also go to Apple Podcasts if you can. Scroll all the way down. You should be able to rate it or grade it, however you'd like. But again, really appreciate the support, and I hope you enjoy this episode. How's it going, guys? Welcome to the Trades and Grades podcast. I'm your host, Noah Wright. Not alongside me is Caleb Nemi or Camden Gongwer. Neither of them are here tonight, so I'm flying solo. So unfortunately, yes, you will have to listen to me and only me for the next I don't know, half an hour or so. Probably will be shorter than that. This will probably be a pretty quick episode, to be honest. We're doing tight end buys this week. We haven't put out a video in a couple of weeks, and I'll take the blame for that 100%. The last couple of weeks have been really busy. I actually biked a 350-mile bike ride across the state of Illinois to raise money for Illinois Cops organization. If you don't know what that is, please look that up because it's really impacted my life and a lot of the people that are involved in my life. But that was an incredible experience. And then after that, I took one of the parts of the CPA exam. So I've been studying pretty hard for that. And my fiance and I just bought a house as well. So we've been renovating that this week. So really just a lot of stuff going on. Haven't had a lot of time for fantasy football content. But yeah, so I'm excited to talk about some tight end sells tonight, which really is tough because I feel like tight ends, especially in tight end premium leagues, which obviously they're a huge commodity, but you don't really want to be selling a whole lot of them. So tonight it's going to be mostly based off of ADP, where I think they're either too high or they're at their ceiling, I suppose. So I guess we'll get it kicked off here. And the first sell that I have is somebody that I feel like should be able to move into an opportunity this year that I feel like they should be able to earn more than they did last year. I'm just not super convinced that they will. That's Dawson Knox on the Buffalo Bills. Dawson Knox last year finished as good as, I believe, tight end 8. And I don't know if that varies from tight end premium or not. I doubt it, but I think he finished tight end 8 PPR leagues, and had a pretty solid year. Broke out. It was his third year in the league, so kind of a typical third year breakout for a tight end. But he did it on a lot of touchdowns, which is what I'm most nervous about. He had 9 touchdowns on the year, which is tied for first in the NFL, which is great. But whenever you see that, I feel like that is just he's just looking for a negative regression in tight ends or in tight ends in touchdowns for this upcoming year, and he's currently his ADP according to Sleeper for this upcoming year. He's being drafted as tight end 10, so I feel like he's not going to have that tight end upside quite as much this coming year. Even if he does, I mean, like 9 touchdowns is fantastic. Obviously, you're leading the NFL. You drop that back to even like 5 or 6, where in the previous years he only had 2 as rookie year than 3, and he played a good amount of those games. You get 5 or 6, I mean, you're slipping back quite a bit. So for him to be being drafted as tight end 10 when he's only tight end 8 with all those touchdowns, it's just a lot for me to dig my teeth into. I don't think I'd be buying him by any means at that price range. And so I feel like that is one of the stronger reasons to sell him. And he wasn't commanding a ton of target share last year. Now, Cole Beasley is gone, who was an absolute target monster. They bring in Jamison Crowder, which isn't – he's not going to have that same type of target share. So I'm not quite as worried about that. You have your Gabe Davis fans and that crowd, which seems to be you either love him or you hate him. I'm really indifferent about it, to be honest. I don't. We talked about this a couple weeks ago on the wide receiver sells. I don't remember. I think it was Camden that had Gabe Davis to sell. But I just don't see. He's a pretty average wide receiver, given one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. So of course you think he's going to increase in value. Where he's being drafted early wide receiver 20s is kind of crazy in my opinion. But at any rate, we're talking about Dawson Knox. So looking at last year's target share, Dawson Knox ranked 22nd out of all tight ends in target share at 13.2%. Meanwhile, he was fourth in snap share, so he's on the field a lot. He's getting a lot of routes run. He ranked 8th with 425 routes run last year. I mean, he's on the field. He's getting those reps in. No one's taking that from him except for an interesting pickup by the Bills this year, which I don't feel like very many people are talking about, which is OJ Howard. Now, OJ Howard's never been a star by any means in the last couple of years. He's been pretty forgettable beyond Tampa Bay. Horace Gronk comes in and kind of ruins that mojo for him. But looking back at 2018, he finished 15th as a tight end 15, only playing 10 of the games. So if you went back and look at points per game, obviously he's going to be a lot higher there. Probably finishing in the top 10. But he's only 27. He's a really solid athlete. And I think that he could have an effect on Dawson Knox. Will he have, a huge effect where you're like, oh, Dawson Knox is going to be a top 20? OJ Howard's now tight end 1 there. No, I don't think so. But it's a bigger deal that I think people maybe are not talking about. We'll have to see how that plays out. But like I said, you have the addition of OJ Howard, another big one that more directly affects rather than indirectly is the pickup of James Cook in the draft. They've spoken to that. They're really going to use him as not a wide receiver, but a wide back, a very cheaper version, pretty much cheap version of Debo. Not exactly the same at all, but they are going to talk about getting him the ball in his hands a lot through the air, so that could take plenty of targets away from Dawson Knox. So all that being said, last year he's on the field a lot. He just wasn't getting a target share that I think he should have commanded. If we're looking for upside, I think that he's probably capped his upside at tight end 10 where he's being drafted. We talked about a couple guys a little over a month ago on our tight end buys. Zach Ertz being drafted right behind him, I believe at tight end 12. And I would 100%, even with the age difference, 100% rather have Zach Ertz because you know that he's going to have that tight end 1 ability, even at the age of 31, even if this is just for this year or if it's this year, next year. I think that he's going to have a higher production this year. Knox can be pretty average, and really after your top 4 or 5 tight ends, they're almost all the same. I mean, we're going to get into a guy here next it's probably going to hurt because it's tough to find tight end sells, really. I feel like they're all pretty appropriate. You have, your top, we'll say 5 or so, being Kyle Pitts, Mark Andrews, Travis Kelce, George Kittle, and Darren Waller. And Kittle and Waller are kind of teetering anymore after the last year. Waller more so. I have more faith in Kittle. Waller's, he's getting older. He's 29. I don't know when his birthday is, and now you have the addition of Devonte Adams when Waller's really been a target hog. So I don't know how that's going to play out. I almost had Waller as one of my sells. I didn't just because I felt like when you have a top 5 tight end, you don't sell them unless you have a Kelce and you're in a rebuild and you wait in the middle of the season and you dump them off to contender and you get, picks or whatever. That's fine. And the same goes for probably Waller and maybe Kittle. Would not do that with Andrews or Pitts. Definitely not Pitts. But after those guys, it's kind of like, you fall into your TJ Hawkinson, Schultz, Goddard, And then I'd probably get another tier, Freiermuth. Knox is coming in at 10. Gesicki is 11. Ertz at 12. And out of all those guys, I mean, after Waller, I wouldn't be surprised if Ertz outproduced Waller this year. I mean, I really think he could have a top 5 season. So um, when you're looking to see, okay, who, even in a startup draft, really, obviously depends on, the composition of your team. But if you've missed on tight end those first couple guys, I'm waiting until I can get Zach Ertz and way farther down the line in drafts. So somehow we've gone on a Zach Ertz tangent, but yeah, I'm not in on Dawson Knox this year. He has the opportunity to come up and get a higher target share, like I said, with Cole Beasley being gone. But I'm not so sure that he's going to fulfill the opportunity if given. So we'll move on to my next guy, which is going to hurt because I really like this guy. I think he has he's a stud. He's a really good athlete. He's a good tight end, but I just do not particularly like the situation that he's in. He might have a more efficient targeting percent. Like he might be have more efficient looks because the offense is, in my opinion, built as perfect as, well, I won't say perfect. It's something that as a Bears fan, I want the Bears to emulate, and that's Dallas Goddard on the Eagles. The Eagles are looking, I believe, according to PFF, looking at the number 1 offensive line coming into this year. And they've now obviously added A.J. Brown in the offseason. So you pair that with Jalen Hurts and Devonte Smith, which is obviously a Heisman winner, first round draft pick last year, had a so-so year. It was a little rocky, but you now pair that with those guys and then Dallas Goddard, and that's, I mean, it should be a firing offense. And so, I mean, they have a really good shot of winning the division, becoming contenders, in my opinion. Looking at Dallas Goddard, A.J. Brown coming in there is going to hurt quite a bit. It sucks. I have Goddard one of my leagues, my home league, and you're stuck in a really tough position because he's at tight end 8 according to ADP. I feel like that's appropriate. I just don't know if he can. If it's pretty much where I think he's going to end up. This is probably about tight end 8. I don't think he's going to get much higher than that. He could fall to like tight end 12 or so, but he's in that range. It's just pretty, And if you're looking to maximize your value before the season, I think is when you're going to want to, because right now I don't see him surpassing tight end 8 by a whole lot. I could see him fall. His situation is not ideal. I guess I'll put it that way. He could still be a stud. We're looking at last year's opportunity for him. In terms of tight ends, he ranked 18.6%, which is 8th out of all tight ends in target share. His target rate was 5th. And this is a new one. I'm looking at player profile. But looking at the target quality rating, he ranked number 1. So essentially, you're combining catchable targets with the average depth of target. So if you have longer passes, obviously that's going to be worth more than shorter passes or uncatchable passes. So they're getting the ball to him at a quality rate, and the passes are quality. Essentially, is what it's saying. And he ranked 5th in receiving yards. So he had 4 touchdowns. Wasn't great, but that's not terrible by any means. I just am worried that those receiving yards are going to drop off. Target share is going to come down a little bit. And he's just not going to be able to fulfill a ceiling of a great tight end 1. So right now we're going to go ahead and look in the Dynasty GM tool, and we're going to go through the trade browser. The trade browser is fantastic. If you're not a Dynasty GM member, I would recommend that highly because it has helped me so much learning through. They have rankings, they have this trade finder I'm about to show you, and so much more. It's helped me become a better Dynasty player. I've run the code in the bottom, but use the code NOAH22, you get 15% off the Dynasty Gem membership. You can sign up for a monthly, just try it out for a month. See how that is. You can do for annual, pay all at once, save a little bit of money down the road. You can do whatever you want, but use the code NOAH22 and you get 15% off of that. I highly, highly recommend it. Yeah, I mean, obviously, I write for them, but that's one thing that I do recommend. But looking at people that you can get for, or even picks that you can get for Dallas Goddard, right now, and this is what I'm talking about cashing in. Looking at a couple of trades in the trade finder that have happened, and these are real leagues. All these are real leagues, which is fantastic. You kind of figure out where the market's at. We're looking, this is July 7th. Dallas Goddard for 2023 first. I do that all day. And this is non-tight end premium. Even tight end premium, I mean, that's hard to pass up, personally. I haven't played, perhaps some might say you haven't played in enough tight end premium leagues for a long enough time. I just don't think that he's going to have that top 5 value. So I would do that. Looking to see Dallas Goddard and Brian Edwards for a 24 first. Again, non-tight end premium. I'm doing that 100%. Here's an interesting one: Dallas Goddard for Dawson Knox in the second. Not a big fan of that. Any which way around that. I don't think the difference between Goddard and Knox is super huge. I think there's definitely a tier break there. The second's kind of whatever to me. I don't know. This is probably the most interesting one that I've seen is Dallas Goddard in a 23 first for Travis Kelce. So I would say in a tight end premium league, that is where that would make more sense to me because Kelce's going to have a great year this year. Obviously, his age is, you just don't know when he's going to kind of go off that cliff. But the difference between Goddard and Kelce as a contender is well worth the 23 first, in my opinion. So if I'm a contender, tight end premium league, I'm probably doing that. I probably don't feel super great about it, but if I know my team is a difference between a Kelce to a Goddard, or let me flip that from Goddard to Kelce, and if I can get Kelce on my team, and I know that I'm gonna be a solid contender, then I'm okay eating that 23 first, even though it's a great class, because you're basically saying that 23 first is going to be late anyway. If you get midway through the season and things aren't looking great, you can flip that Kelce to a contender possibly. But that is a deal that I'm probably willing to make. Non tight end premium though, that's a tough one. I don't know. I think that the tight ends don't have quite as big of a value. So that would be tough for me to say. I would have to be really sure that, yeah, I'm all in. I'm gonna either win or get top something. Another one that just pops up here, so probably my last one. Unless I find another good one that's interesting. But Dallas Goddard, a 22 first, and another 22 first for Mark Andrews. Doesn't say where they are. Obviously this class, man, I need to obviously counter. I don't know how many times I've said that. This class has not been as solid as years past, and probably not, I would say definitely not compared to next year. Haven't looked into 24 super in depth yet. But that's a lot of draft capital, and you're giving up a tight end. I don't know how worth it is for me to do that. That's personally a lot for me. I'm not sure I'd be able to stomach doing that, but yeah, I'm gonna keep going through. We have Dallas Goddard for 2 seconds, 1 and 22, 1 and 23. That I'm not so sure. It's just that's whatever to me. It's not really getting the deal done. Like I said, 23 first to 24 first. If you can get that, I'm doing that all day. An interesting one, some people might make the case for right here. Albert O in a 23 second for Dallas Goddard. You're a big Albert O fan. You think he's going to have the upside with Wilson this year? That's definitely a trade you're willing to make because you might think that even him and Goddard might be even this year. And then you get a second on top. So I could see that happening. I'm not sure that I would do that, but I could definitely see that. But yeah, there hasn't been another 22 first for Dallas Goddard and a 22 third. Yeah, it's tough. If it was if it was the 101, then I would definitely do that. But outside of that, I'm not sure I'm pulling the trigger on that. But I mean, you get the point. Um, if you're looking to, you know, maximize value, I feel like the time for that is right now. I hope that Dallas Goddard proves me wrong, because I like him a lot. Obviously, he's on one of my teams that one of the team probably the team that I'm the most excited about this year. Um, but I just don't. I just feel like his ceiling's capped here. So yeah, this is probably the shortest episode that we've ever had, but no one's here to rebuttal me. So I'm just gonna assume that Caleb and Camden both have just agreed wholeheartedly. They love these picks, and then yeah, no arguments here. Insert George Pickens take slash fight recommendation, and Camden, saying who he thinks he could see George Pickens fighting in whatever week with some random scenario. But okay, yeah, now it's an official episode. So appreciate you guys listening to this. As I said in the beginning, we really appreciate all the support that we get. We're looking to just keep grinding this out, keep building a platform, and we're really just having fun with this. So, regardless of how many people listen to this, we're really just having fun. So, appreciate you guys listen to me ramble for 20 something minutes, and hope you come back next week.